recently that on many occasions extraditions were not granted by the different courts only on the ground that India does not have good facilities in the prison. 1695 was the time when Aurangzeb was the ruler. His sister Roshanara was attacked and treasury was looted by a British called Henry. He demanded Britishers that they have to hand over their national who is indulged into this kind of offense. Why I am referring this? Because whenever you start thinking about the issuance of summons, especially in the foreign jurisdictions, or even the request of extradition by the Indian courts, we find certain procedures, certain practices, and that is also related with the intra or international relation, intra-country relationship. Professor Manoj Sinha, Professor Hague ji, Mr. Narendra Singh ji, Sally Jacob ji, Mr. Jairaj, Sunil Agrawal ji, Shekhar Ranjan ji, Sadhvi Rao ji, Sirajul ji, and many others, our friends who are here on the dais and off the dais. Whenever we start thinking about this particular area, then primarily we have to go in 1695. 1695 was the time when Aurangzeb was the ruler and his sister Roshanara was attacked and treasury was looted by a British called Henry. Those days, when this matter was brought to the Badshah Aurangzeb, he demanded Britishers that they have to hand over their national who is indulged into this kind of offense. And ultimately, Britishers said that we cannot hand over our citizen to you. Then Aurangzeb threatened that we will have a war and your entire business in this subcontinent will be blocked. Thereafter, the trial was conducted and 9 perpetrators who were indulged into this loot of the treasury and attack on the sister of Aurangzeb were hanged. I am referring this particular point because that was the first incident in which a demand of extradition was made by any Indian authority those days. We have to start thinking from the Magna Carta days, 1215, when the king who had imposed some curtails over the liberty, some impediment, the forfeiture of the properties, and thereafter this Magna Carta was introduced. Obviously, there was no theory of fair trial, there was nothing called habeas corpus. All those modern theories which evolved thereafter on those foundations, that is really important because unless you start something, nothing concrete can happen in later stage. Within 2 years, John passed away, his 9-year-old son Henry became the king, and Magna Carta finally has taken the shape after 1300 only. Why I am referring this? Because whenever you start thinking about the issuance of summons, especially in the foreign jurisdictions, or even the request of extradition by the Indian courts, we find certain procedures, certain practices, and that is also related with the intra or international relation, intra-country relationship. Like in UAE, though they are not the signatory of Hague as mentioned by Mr. Saju, we got extradited, few of them without having followed the due course. Because Government of India has given heed to one request of UAE. Thereafter, whatever we demanded, they heard to us and they arrested the persons who were required to go and follow the procedure of law. They were brought to the law and they were brought back to the India. The major case earlier was this Abu Salem's case. In Abu Salem's case, the due procedure has to be followed, Hague Convention and then 10A objections which was raised. It was really very important because when you are extraditing someone, you have to follow those procedures where double criminality clause has to be satisfied. And when you go for the double criminality, the tests are different. Like suppose today we want someone under PMLA section 45 and we want to arrest them, but the persons had absconded. Like you can For the namesake, you can have this Malia case, or Nirav Modi case, maybe Mehul Choksi case, or many others. Half of the UAE, whoever meets, they are, most of them are wanted somewhere in their country of origin. In the UK, you will find many who have taken shelter. And what is the reason why they have taken the shelter despite having this double criminality clause, India being the signatory? What is the purpose? Why it is so? Then we realize that tests are very important. The fair trial parameters are very important. The protection of fundamental rights are very important. Then we further realize that the test in which you are going, that may not be sufficient for conducting a trial or satisfying that particular court, that governments are taking the person for the purpose in which he is warranted. Because on many occasions, our request has been declined. We are not able to even bring many of the persons who are wanted before different courts of law. Last extradition which we found, that one rape case which was in the UK, happened in the Patiala House. Patiala House court is the only court of extradition those days, and one CMM, he looks after entire extradition process. Why I am referring all this? Because whenever you go and initiate the process of summoning a person in the foreign jurisdiction, or a foreign country summons a person within a jurisdiction, the first case, both the cases fortunately belong to Samuel Jacobs Estate, Kerala. The last one is 2025, the Pillar Punch case. In the first case, unless you follow the procedures mentioned in the Hague Convention, the proceedings ex parte cannot be proceeded, and the procedures will not be complete. In the recent judgment of the Kerala High Court, which has to qualify the test of the Supreme Court, it may go to the larger bench, in which we say that even if someone has been served to the person by electronic mode, and that is the genuine electronic account of the person, then the proceedings can be initiated. But the primary foundation of the law and justice is that no person can be subject to any judgment without giving them an opportunity to be heard. And to give the opportunity to be heard, they have to give them the notices. So notice is the primary foundation in which the matters are tried. In those cases, whenever we start proceeding against someone, we realize that many times we fail the test. Many a times the summons are served, and even in our Indian courts, where our opposite side lawyers, even sometimes they also play mischief. They serve the summon on some wrong ID, some dot is added, some wrong ID summons are served, this notice has been served. Many occasions we find this. And many courts in UAE, in the UK, they have set aside the procedures adopted by the courts of different jurisdictions and decided the matters without following the due procedures under the Hague Convention or under the CPC. And first of all, both the countries should have agreed on those common laws on which they are proceeding against the persons, against the accused persons. They have to satisfy the test, the criminality clause, and thereafter, when they start proceeding, they have to deal with certain issues in which they have to establish that extradition purpose is only one, that is to bring the person before law. We have seen recently that on many occasions extraditions were not granted by the different courts only on the ground that India does not have good facilities in the prison. They have also rejected the extradition on the ground that judiciary is somewhere impartial, not impartial. Recently a case happened in one high court, and we find that all the accused persons who were wanted for the extradition, they all filed the same, all those documents, and they say Indian judiciary is not there. And that's why Government of India is also very careful while alleging something against a judge. Because then your entire purpose will be defeated. Alleging something is one thing, but if you allege something and you feel that you are satisfied in your own jurisdiction, ultimately the result is you will fail in each and every extradition. Because that is one of the primary parameters. Issuance of summons and service of the summons, obviously it has to be modified. The Government of India and several other governments who are the signatories, or even if they are not signatories, because this is not the age of just simple following of one state or one nation. This is the era of constitutionalism, where most of us, they have to follow the parameters which is as per the constitution, which is based on the welfare state, which is based on the rule of law, which is based on the fairness and equal opportunity. And if that is the purpose, then each and every perpetrator who is warranted before any court of law, they should be brought to the law, and our treaties has to be fair. And fairness means not only that you have signed a treaty. Signing treaty is one thing, but when you sign a treaty, the intent should be very fair. Because if someone is wanted, someone has to bring to the India, or any other country is requesting from India for a criminal, we all have to hand it over to them. And we have to sign in such a way that there should not be any flaw, there should not be any attack, there should not be any opportunity of complaining that there is no fair opportunity granted for the accused person. There are so many professors, they all will be discussing about the subject. Mr. Saju told me initially that I have only 5 minutes or 10 minutes. How much you granted me, sir?
It's okay.
It's okay. So whenever Saju says something, we all have to listen. Because if you don't listen to Saju, Saju can actually deal with so many persuasion. So, in my opinion, the presumption of innocence has to be given priority, because on many occasions we find that many persons who has been arrested, who has been brought to the law, and ultimately they were discharged. So after 5 years of trial, few years of the prison, if the person has been discharged, even being discharged is not enough. Because society does not accept with the same fairness. So the stigma, the black mark which has been attached on you, is really difficult for you to deal with those situations. In my opinion, the presumption of innocence is not the only option by which the court should be proceeding. If someone has wrongly played a fraud with a person, which has been now recently Honorable Supreme Court has initiated, and now courts have sought the opinion that if there is some wrongful conviction, then there should be a procedure of compensation on which the courts are going to consider. When we get someone from the UK and Canada, UK getting is bit easier, Canada very difficult, USA almost impossible in certain things. But nowadays what US is doing, US has also started proceedings against the different countries, against the head of the nations. And they say that despite 1975 Act, which gives them clearly or bars them clearly that you cannot act against a sovereign, they are proceeding on the ground that the act, particular act, is not the act of the sovereign. That is the act which has to be dealt with the criminal law, and the person can be treated in the same sector. Many chief ministers fear arrest. Many leaders of the world, they fear arrest. So, in my opinion, this is the one area in which we all have to work very hard. Our leaders, they also have to work very hard. They have to prepare a proper note, a proper delegation by which it can be circulated. The economic offenders are really difficult to bring back to the law. The basic criminals, the petty criminals, petty offenders, which find the more places in the newspaper, bringing them is not difficult. But the economic offenders who has actually made the life of thousands and lakhs of people miserable, it's really difficult for us to bring them back, because they have money, they have resources, and they know where to go and where to hide. Fortunately, I have been interacting with our several honorable prime ministers from 92 to 2009, and I have seen them that how serious they are in such issues. But despite having the seriousness, we cannot rule out sometimes malicious prosecution. So issuance of summons is one part, fairness is the another part. If we establish that our system is fair, is transparent, the presumptions are in the minds of public in general is about the justice and fair trial, then we will be serving the real purpose of law. Thank you so much, Mr. Saju, Mr. Hegde, Narendra Singh ji, for giving me this opportunity. And I am really overwhelmed to see all the friends here who are seriously waiting. Thank you so much.